What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of FanDuel Friday. I'm your host, Andre Alford, go by Jersey 26 on the DFS streaks. And I'm here today with my main man, my main guy here, TJ Zwarych. We're going to discuss today's FanDuel slate and get you an early look to see, how things are going to go and what to expect and how to take it down and win some money today. So, TJ, how's everything going? How's everything in your world?
World is crazy busy, but good. I'm getting married now in 8 days. It's coming up quick. It's a week from tomorrow. So I'm excited, but also very busy. We got a fun little DFS slate today. I'm trying not to focus too much on DFS except for when I'm zoned in and doing my research. Like I'm trying to be very present when I'm doing it and very away from it when I'm not.
Mm.
The Agents of Fandom stuff has been popping as well. I got some exciting interview opportunities that look like they're going to be coming. So very busy, but it's good, and I'm ready to dive into the slate.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing. And congratulations, both of us are getting married. You're getting married next Sunday. Congratulations on that. I'm getting married next year. Picked out a venue. Was finally glad to do that. So, just on to the next step. So, I hope wish you nothing but well in your marriage and everything.
Thank you so much. And you're hitting that break stage soon, getting all the preliminary things out of the way, and then you get to chill a little bit until the RSVPs start coming.
Well, yeah. For right now, we got a brief moment to talk about as well. Like, I actually, we actually are ahead of schedule because we picked the
Mm.
venue out quickly. We were very, very like surprised that were able to do that so fast. So, and it's not to that, pretty much next fall. So, we got a little bit of a break right now, a weekend before we have to get our invitations out and get our vendors and everything situated. So we're enjoying that for the next couple months before we dive back into it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's dive into this slate we got going here. We're going to, obviously, with the FanDuel Friday show, we can't be giving out Spidey bombs because it's not live, but hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube, and we're going to give some home run plays here at the end as well.
Yes, definitely we will for sure. And yeah, let's just dive right into it for sure. So with the pitching, I know we were talking a little bit pre-show. You're saying it's a clear top option, as you can see with the guy Robbie Ray. Followed closely, I would say, by Dylan Cease on here on FanDuel today. But I think it's a really interesting one as far as deep from a pitching perspective, as far as it can go really deep. So from the options we have. So what is your thoughts on it today?
It always feels good when you kind of look at a slate, develop what you think is going to be your strategy. Obi, don't bark right now. We're doing a show, bro. Uh, when you develop a strategy, then you go read Cheese's article, and he says his strategy is going to be what you're doing, and that feels great. And I think, despite how many decent options we have at pitcher today, I'm going to keep a tiny little pitching pool, and I'm just going to spread out at bats today because I truly don't know who the top offense on this slate is, but I feel like there are very few people who can match the upside of Robbie Ray and Dylan Cease.
Yeah, and I completely kind of agree with you in a way. Rob Ray though has been like not so good as last two games. Granted, they were against Houston, and Houston seems just has his number this year. But against the Angels, he probably put on one of his best would have put up one of his best performances of the year. And we don't want to go by the previous numbers, I know, but um, it looks good. It looks really good for him. It's hard to deny that Robbie Ray's the top option today, especially against the Los Angeles Angels team that does have a high strikeout rate in their lineup. I know just from knowing the history of it, and also without Mike Trout being in there, and them trading away a few guys. But I think it's a great opportunity for him to pitch a great game here today. Dylan Cease, another option that you mentioned before, going against Texas, so a little bit of a tougher matchup, I would say. Texas is not a bad team, um, but nonetheless, like I said, still a tougher matchup, and he also costs more. So that's another option too. We have to consider the price difference too, 9.4 versus 10.9. that's a huge savings and a huge difference between the two alone. So, yeah, but I think that those two guys are clearly the top options. But I think we have some other options that we can probably maybe get into today, like a guy I think like might be viable. Maybe a guy like Framer Valdez could be viable. I think a little bit as a GPP option. I would say only, just because he can definitely get some strikeouts in there. Um, and he's not really mainly a fly ball pitcher. So I don't mind Valdez a little bit, but the price I know is a little bit concerning. Kyle Gibson, I think, is another option on the cheaper end at 7.77K today, in my opinion. What are some of your thoughts on those guys that I mentioned?
Kyle Gibson is somebody I'm looking at keeping in my pool right now just because of how cheap he is. And so I'll be able to get totally different lineups with him than I would have otherwise with Robbie Ray or Dylan Cease in there. Kyle Gibson absolutely can get blown up, but he's facing a Washington team that is just not good anymore without Juan Soto and without Josh Bell, especially against right-handed pitching. So I think I am interested in getting to him as well. But the Valdez call, don't think it's going to be for me today. This Cleveland team has a 17% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. And so Valdez doesn't have a ton of upside. Yeah, he might go 7 plus innings, but I think Robbie Ray can do that too while getting a whole lot more strikeouts. And I think Valdez has a more likely chance of getting knocked out early just because of the quality of Cleveland's lineup.
That is a very fair point there too to say, and I now I probably have to think about that. I guess a little that play a little bit on my end. But I just don't mind it a little bit in tournaments just to get a little bit different. But I do love the Kyle Gibson call. He's someone that I'm going to probably be targeting heavy and looking at a lot today in my lineups. Is there anyone else that you have any interest in pitching in the pitching pool today that we have?
I've seen others express interest in Pablo Sandoval for some upside. I don't mind that, but to be perfectly honest with you, I'm kind of just debating locking in Robbie Ray. Like I think I might run 150 lineups, hit the lock button, and just stack almost every team on the slate.
Wow. I mean, that's not for the faint of heart, but I don't mind that today at all either. I think that
It's
might be
terrifying with a guy who's combined for -1 points in his last 2 games. But like, I trust the bat. Like there's been so many times this year where I've tried to go, I think I'm smarter than the bat today, and I think I'm going to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to go against what everybody else is doing and what the bat says here. And I get it wrong, like basically every time. Like the my best nights are when my thoughts correlate with the bat, and I just do something a little bit different somewhere else, and that's when I typically end up having my best nights. So Robbie Ray has by far the highest projection with the bat projections. He's got the best plate IQ rating of any of the pitchers on the slate. He's got a big leash. I think I'm just gonna roll with him. Like, especially if we end up getting like 4 lefties in this Angels lineup, like other than Ohtani, those should just be auto strikeouts, every other one of those guys. So I think I'm going to just pull the trigger, hit the lock button, and see if I can get as many different stacks with these bats as possible.
And yeah, like I said, seven projected points ahead. Right now we have the bat projections up. This is what I typically use on a daily basis myself. This one has actually won me $1 million. So I love these projections. It's the best in the industry in my opinion. So if you're not a premium member, go subscribe to Derek Carter's the Bat. For the rest of the season, I guarantee you'll make some money. And you won't regret it at all. And also get the Blitz too, which is coming up for the NFL season very soon, which is pretty much right around the corner. Can't wait to get into that as well. But also, yeah, I kind of agree with you there. So like 7 points higher, it's a big gap. It's a big difference. So I agree with you. So maybe like my pitching options probably be like today would be Robbie Ray, maybe a little Cease. I don't know if I'm going to go with Eric Lauer. I probably can't do it. I'd rather go with Kyle Gibson and Pablo Sandoval today. I guess
I
you go.
looked at Lauer, I looked at Sandoval, I considered them, and I decided to click
Yeah.
the X on both. That bat projection looks nice on Lauer, but looking through plate IQ, I just don't really like the matchup. Lauer hasn't been as strong lately as he was early in the year.
Hmm.
And if there's one thing the bat won't take into account, its recent performance in there as much. So um, I think I'm going maximum 3 players in my pool today for pitchers.
Oh, wow.
Cease, Lauer, and Gibson, but I'm debating just going only Ray. Sorry, Cease, Ray, and Gibson, but I'm debating just going Ray.
Yeah, I'm gonna my pitcher pool will be today more so Ray, Cease, Gibson, Sandoval. I think just because I like the price of Gibson and Sandoval, but I love Robbie Ray in the spot too as well. So, but I also got to have a little bit of I mean, we play to win, so I don't mind locking in one guy and just going with him. But I also want to play to make sure I don't get blown up either. And if he gets blown up, I don't have 100% of him, and then my night's over early. So, but I think that's what we have to do at pitching today. And before we get into the bats, I just wanted to mention this is, like I said, exclusively a FanDuel Friday show. And with that being said, they do have some great contests out there today. They have the MLB squeeze today for $5.55, where they get 30K on top to first place. And then they also have the monster for $777 today. We're 100K up top for first place. Those two you should definitely try to get in there as much as we possibly can. And also wanted to mention this for the next couple of weeks. I think it's 5 weeks now. We have the Rotogrinders does their single entry series with FanDuel, exclusively with FanDuel. And today we have them for the $2 entry, single entry, the MLB stolen base, which is about halfway filled up right now, what I'm looking at. And then we also have the $100 single entry this week, which is probably about a little more half the way, like 60%, I would say, filled up for the $100 single entry. Get in there, get your scores. You pretty much accumulate the top 4 scores, I believe, for the week. And if you are pretty much in that top 4 for the top number 1 for that whole week, you get a trip to Chicago to compete in a live final environment event for, I believe I want to say $10,000 for that prize, if not a little bit more.
And you
Um,
can meet me.
and yeah, you can meet TJ out there. You can meet myself. I'll be out there, and a couple other of our RG guys like Squirrel and Christy will be out there too as well. So we look forward to hopefully seeing one of you guys out there, and you can and just enter the contest, and we'll see you there. So now we get on to the bats today. On the bat side of it today, what are some of your top stacks that you're looking at, just from a perspective of a first glance, first look at it, and how everything shapes out?
So today for me, I agree with what she's put in the $1,000,000 musings that it's definitely going to be a full sack day. It's such a big slate with so many bats in relatively similar spots. There won't be that many players I'm looking at one off. Like Jordan Alvarez and Rafael Devers. Hell yeah, I'm gonna include them as potential one offs, but I don't think I'm going to be going out of my way to build a bunch of like 4 1 1 1 1 1s, 4 2 1 1s. Like it's going to be 4 4s and 4 3s all the way through. Um, Having said that, the reason why I'm really thinking about locking in a pitcher like Robbie Ray today is because all of them is my answer to who are my top stacks today. Like, if I'm trying to put it into one tier, it's going to be Houston, New York, Yankees, Milwaukee, if this game is all good, which I think it will be today, the Phillies, the Blue Jays, the Dodgers, and maybe the White Sox. Like I think that would be like my tier 1. On a slate like today, I think I'm just going to be trying to play the best talent. Like all of these matchups are so similar. Nobody's really in that great of a spot. And so because of that, I think I'm just going to be looking to play like the top offenses on the board.
Okay, yeah, and to me, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I agree. I love the Phillies a lot today. I love New York obviously, and love Houston as well. Those are like my top 3. I think I would go with today. But I do kind of like the St. Louis side of that game with Nestor Cortez being bad a couple games
I like
lately.
that too.
So I don't.
St. Louis against lefties,
Yeah,
always a great call.
I
Good
don't.
job there.
Yeah, so I don't mind taking a shot, taking some stats with St. Louis. I also kind of like Baltimore. I think Baltimore is just a little bit of a sneaky team that could go off. That's a little bit be a little bit under the radar today as well. And obviously, you said Milwaukee too as well. I think that's a good game. And that Minnesota Toronto game, and it kind of interests me just a little bit, just because I know we know the standpoint of we know, obviously, Robbie Ray is he could get blown up, so you might want to take some chances and go with some stacks against him. Um, but I think that oh, actually, cool. He's not. Is he on? Am I making a mistake? He is not on Toronto anymore. He was on Toronto
No,
last year.
he's on Seattle now,
Ooh,
facing the
I
Angels.
can't. I always get that mixed up. Sorry, guys. But yeah, that Minnesota Toronto game is someone I might take something I might take a chance on today. As a game that I like. Besides the Yankee game, as far as like stacking both sides of it. Also that Boston Kansas City game too as well. There's a lot of, like you said, interesting stacks. You don't know which one is the right one to go with. A lot of I think totals are going to be going over from a betting perspective, or and some could potentially go under. But it's just a lot of like people. A lot of these pitchers are into. Well, a lot of these rotations are like into like the back half of their pitching rotations, which are pretty much some of them are not the best pitchers in the world. So, or teams have finally figured out that hey, they're not making the playoffs, or let's just get some of these young guys in there and play them more and see what we have. So that's an option too as well. And one more other team I think we can't sleep on as a stack today is kind of Seattle. That can get lost a little bit. Just because the standpoint, just because Robbie Ray is pitching on that on with for them, doesn't mean you can't also use them as a stack. And I think that they're viable too because they actually are in the playoff hunt and are trying to. I think they're going to try to do what they can to make it into the playoffs. So, and one team that we didn't mention, too that I thought about just now is the Dodgers. Like,
Yeah, Dodgers. I did actually. I mentioned them in my top tier. I think they're a group that's going to go pretty overlooked today because they got
very
a decently tough matchup against Sean Manaea, but Manaea's given up some runs this year. I think the two teams for me that I think are going to fly the most under the radar that I'm interested in getting to are the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. I feel like I would like the Baltimore call, but we're gonna have to keep an eye on the weather of that one. I'll be on crunch time later with Roth, and so we'll make sure he gives us the word. But that was the one in his weather report that he felt had some postpone risk. It's orange yellow on that one, I believe. So, but the Dodger call, I love it. I think they're gonna go heavily overlooked. And the other team I think is in a very similar boat to them is going to be the Blue Jays. One of the reasons I like the Blue Jays so much is, yes, they got better at the deadline, right? But they didn't add any lefties, and that was a thing that a lot of people were wanting them to do, was add some lefties. But the righties on this lineup, actually, most of them actually hit righties better than they hit lefties. They're reverse splitsy. So because of that, I'm not too worried. And now today they get a matchup against Tyler Mahle, who is a reverse splits pitcher. He strikes out more lefties than he does righties. His ISO to lefties is 135 this year. To righties, it's 180. He has less ground ball skills. He gives up way more line drives. He gets hit hard, 11% harder by right-handed bats. I love the Blue Jays in tournaments today.
Yeah, that's an interesting call, and I think that they're not a bad call either. This it's the number of teams that could really be the top stack tonight. It's just about finding the right ones, and figuring out what you like to do. So, we know I'm not going to go position by position because that's what we normally because we'll say that for grinders live when we go on today. But like you said, strategy wise, you were talking about going full stacks. Are there any teams, which I agree with you, today's a full stack day. I personally am more on the lines of going like a 4-3 or 4-2 stack today, more than anything. I might maybe do, if anything, 10%, a little bit of 4-4s. But are there any teams that you would specifically use like as a primary or secondary stack today on the slate?
Almost any of these teams I'd be willing to use as a primary stack. Two of the teams that we touched on that I think I'd be more willing to use as three teams that stick out to me in particular as four teams that stick out in particular as a secondary stack today. This is what I said. This is why I want to lock in my my pitcher and just play a whole bunch of different bats today. So team one is going to be Minnesota. I don't think I really want to full stack them against Barrios, but I have no issue doing a Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa mini stack. My secondary stacks are always teams I'm looking to for more of a mini stack. And so the next one on my list would be St. Louis. Go something like Goldschmidt, Arenado, O'Neill, a little three-man, or Carlson, Arenado, Goldschmidt. I don't think I want to go a full stack against the lefty Cortez. Having said that, I am still okay mixing in some cheapies like Paul DeJong in there as well. So KC, they're a team I'm looking at as my secondary stack. KC is another one. Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt. I absolutely love just putting those two as a mini stack together. And then even if you want to bump it up to 3 or 4, you've got Pasquantino, Melendez, and Dozier. That's not a team I'm going to be looking to stack top to bottom, but it's a stack I'll look to get to in a lot of secondary stacks with the top 5 guys in the lineup.
Okay, man, and I typically I kind of agree with those teams, for sure, definitely.
Last one I missed, was Seattle. I don't really want to be playing the full lineup, but I'll mini stack these guys, and there are some very cheap ways to do it. I actually really like a Kyle Lewis, Eugenio Suarez mini stack.
Yeah, I agree. Like Seattle definitely is a good mini stack. It's a good secondary stack team. San Diego, I think, is a good secondary stack team as well today. I think St. Louis to me is more of a full stack personally, but I do agree with the Minnesota call. So it's being a more of a mini stack today as well. Another team that I think that I would designate only as a mini stack, or secondary stack, I should say, would be the Mets. Kind of like, I know Ian Anderson pitched, but like we were down on him before, and then he started pitching pretty well I think the last game after having a bad game against the Angels in a great spot. But I could see the Mets getting to him a little bit here. Might not happen often, but guys like Pete Alonso, Sterling Marte, Lindor, don't mind doing like a 3-man of those type of guys on that team, or with Nimmo, replacing one of them with Nimmo. And look at Pete Alonso lately; he has been hot. Like besides,
so is Lindor.
Yeah, besides going like 0 for 4 in one game against Washington, the last couple games have just been crazy for him. Crazy, just absolute crazy. So I look for him to have a good game today, against Ian Anderson. I think that that could be a really, really, really sneaky secondary stack. Or even if you want to stack it full, you can. But I think they're definitely more justifiable as a secondary stack. In Tampa Bay, I think is also a good secondary stack as well.
Francisco Lindor has had 2 games with less than 9 FanDuel points since July 7th.
Wow. That's crazy.
Look at that game log.
Yeah, you got, to me, Lindor's in play today for sure, definitely. Like you can't dispute that. That's good hitting right there. He's
and I mean, I think they are in play. Sorry, I've cut you off so many times this episode. I just agree with you, and I want to support your points. And then I realize after the fact that I'm cutting you off. Mm-hmm. I think these guys are in play for a full stack as well, because even like Tyler Naquin and Daniel Vogelbach have been crushing since they arrived there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think those are great options today for sure. And like I mentioned, Tampa Bay also, I think it's a good, either primary, but more so I think a secondary stack for me today as well. But yeah, so if you had to rank your top offense, like I guess 1 through 5, if you could, who would be your top 5 before we get ready to get out of here?
Top 5 for me today, I think, would be Houston, the Yankees, the Phillies, Toronto, Dodgers, and Milwaukee. I'm giving you 6 because I couldn't hold it to 5.
It happens. I think definitely Houston's my number one for sure. I think the Phillies are number two for me, followed by the Yankees. Um, after that, it gets kind of tough because there's a number of different ways I think I can go. But I really do. If that Baltimore game does play, I kind of like Baltimore in there, just being sneaky-ish, and I always like to include some type of sneaky stacks in my top five. So Baltimore would be one of them for sure. And then I'm gonna say St. Louis as a fifth one because I think that they're sneaking on the opposite side going against Nestor Cortez today. And I could be wrong, but I think that all those teams have potential to go off and be a great play today. So before we get ready to get out of here, just want to give a couple home run calls out today. So I know you're gonna be on Crunch Time. I'll be on Grinders Live. I'll probably get out some battering bombs. You get out some Spidey bombs. Let's give the people out like two for right now. What we think? What we got today?
I'm gonna keep the sneaky ones for the shows later, and we're gonna go with Rafael Devers and Yordan Alvarez, are my two just favorite overall to hit home runs today.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep the stinky ones for later on today too as well. I do love Kyle Schwarber since he knocked me out the park yesterday because that game got canceled and rained out. I had him on my list yesterday to hit one, and he disappointed me a little bit that he did. That he did it, but I'm gonna go with back to him, and then I'm also gonna go back to the well-known guy that I picked yesterday, and he homered. Brandon Lau. I think he's gonna go back to back today against Garcia, hit a home run there in Detroit. So before we get ready to get out of here, just wanted to say thank you to TJ. We'll see you later on today. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in our inboxes. Where can they find you at, TJ?
Socials, TJ underscore Zwarych 5, ZWARYCH. It's up on the screen there. And then head to the Rotogrinders Discord if you're in there. I don't mind answering chats in there as well.
Yes, definitely. And me, I'm always have my Discord open. So if you add me, I'll definitely respond to it when I get a chance to. Is obviously it's Drizzy26. And if you can find me, you can find me on Twitter at Drizzy26 underscore DFS. I'll be glad to answer your questions there and give you some advice that I can to help you guys down this late. Um, but yeah, so good luck to everyone today and have a great day. And I hope that we'll catch you later. And hopefully one of us takes it down. If not, you take it down from watching the show and learning a little bit of something about the slate today. Thank you and have a good one.